All right, it is officially NFL roster cutdown day from 90 to 53, or in the 49ers case, 85 to 53 today, because they made 5 cuts yesterday, and we just have word that they've made their first cut of today. Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback, the rookie out of Wisconsin, has been waived. He probably will rejoin the 49ers via the practice squad. That is, if he does clear waivers. That is according to the San Francisco Chronicles' Eric Branch. So I've got 49ers roster updates to give you via the spreadsheet. And I also have some Trent Williams talk and Brandon Aiyuk talk, because we have the full CeeDee Lamb details as well. That contract and the guaranteed money, we can really appraise how that impacts the Brandon Aiyuk situation. But first, let's introduce you to the spreadsheet. In case you don't have the link, I'm going to copy and paste it and put it into the chat section, because we could be doing some live work on the spreadsheet today as these cuts are made. 1 p.m. Pacific time is the deadline. Right now, it's 11 a.m. Pacific time. Generally, the 49ers release all their cuts, or all the ones they make today, on cutdown day at once through a press release. But what happens is that we're going to probably learn of some sooner than then, because agents are going to leak some information to reporters, so on and so forth. Maybe players even will tweet about certain things. So Mordecai is the 49ers' first reported cut of today. That means that we're going to take Tanner Mordecai's name and we're going to erase it off of the 49ers 90-man roster. We can erase the green color coding for rookie, and we can list him here in my list of cuts with QB Tanner Mordecai. And he is a waive, not a release. If you have 4 or fewer years, accrued years of service in the NFL, you are waived. So you're subject to waivers. Other teams have a chance to claim you, sign you to their 53-man roster. If you clear waivers, then you can re-sign to a team's practice squad. And as you can see here, I have a practice squad projection. 16 players. Guess who's at the very top of my practice squad projection? Tanner Mordecai. So we're 1 for 1, at least as far as predicting who's going to get cut. Now we'll see if we're 1 for 1 on practice squad projections, but that's not going to happen until tomorrow, as Mordecai does have to clear waivers. This was expected. The 49ers, I also expected the 49ers to carry 3 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster. The rule, or the proposed rule, because it was never fully ratified, it was rejected by the NFLPA, to allow for the emergency third quarterback to come from the practice squad. It's not a thing. The NFLPA did reject that. So it's even more likely now that the 49ers will carry Brock Purdy, Josh Dobbs, and Brandon Allen on their 53-man roster. They definitely weren't going to carry 4 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster, but they can carry 4 in the building if they can pass Tanner Mordecai through to the practice squad. Mordecai, really athletic guy, and I think, maybe the strongest arm out of the 49ers QBs. But we saw a lot of good play from the backups over the course of training camp in the preseason. Dobbs, Brandon Allen, both of those guys performed well. Purdy's one of the best in the league. So they're just really, obviously, barring a trade, would not have been room for somebody like Mordecai on the 49ers 53-man roster. He's a QB who ran under a 4.5 40, has that strong arm. He could spin the football. I really, really like the throw that he made, rolling to his left to the unnatural side to Ronnie Bell late in the game against the Raiders. So a lot of talent here. 49ers, it's not surprising that Eric Branch reported that the 49ers would like to keep Tanner Mordecai in the building on the practice squad. Stockpiling quarterbacks is the 49ers way. It has paid off for them in the past, and they're going to hope that it continues to pay off for them moving forward. Moving forward, by the way, Trent Williams. Let's go to Josina Anderson's tweet. Check this out. This came out on Twitter this morning. She's talking about a couple different things in the first 2 points, but I want you to read this one. Some league sources stated they're hearing Trent Williams wants to be paid, not just paid, like the very important piece he is. Another league source also added this morning, San Francisco is between a real rock and a hard place because Trent is not playing around. Something may have to give unless you're allowing for big adjustments next season. Okay, so what has to give This is what's remaining of Trent Williams' contract. He signed this in 2021. It gave the 49ers 6 years of team control. So there's still 3 seasons left. But Trent Williams, even with those 3 seasons left, is coming to the table. And it's like Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back. He's saying, I'm altering the deal. Pray that I do not alter it any further. And yes, Trent Williams has big time leverage because he's such an indispensable piece of this 49ers team. So what's he not happy about? Well, this is what remains. In 2024, this season, he stands to make $20.8 million. 2025, it goes up to $23.4 million. And in 2026, it goes up to $33.1 million. You add all of that up, it is 3 years, $77.3 million, or averaged out $25.8 million per year. Look at the top tackle contracts in the league now. Williams was number 1 when he signed this deal 3 years ago, but he's since been usurped, leapfrogged by Tristan Wirfs, $28.1 million, Penei Sewell, $28 million, and Christian Darrisaw, $26 million. Williams, with the final 3 years of his deal, if you ignore the past and just look forward, would be at number 4. However, none of this $25.8 million for Trent Williams is guaranteed. And as you can see, the biggest money doesn't come until 2026. Williams is 36 years old already. He'll be 38 in 2026. He's probably not even sure if he wants to play that long. The 49ers aren't sure if he is going to want to play that long. So this deal obviously is not commensurate of his ability and how he's produced. And Trent Williams probably doesn't feel that it reflects the fact that he might retire a little bit sooner with none of the money being guaranteed. And, you know, if he does retire after 2024, he only stands to make $20.8 million this year, which is well short of what some of these tackles are averaging per year. The younger guys who have signed much more recently. The issue here, and I think it's a decent problem to have if you're the 49ers, is that Trent Williams is playing better than all the guys that are making more money. I write at the bottom that we can deduce that on top of more guaranteed money, since Williams doesn't have any right now, Trent essentially wants a rebalancing. He's going to want a bigger chunk of the money coming sooner, perhaps in a way that ups his average per year back to number 1 since he is 36 years old. People are asking me, well, how exactly is this going to look? Well, I can't tell you what Trent Williams would sign, but I do know that he's going to want more cash flow coming in 2024 than just $20.8 million. And given the fact that he is 36, that he's a lot older than these guys down here, it's going to have to be a lot of cash flow coming sooner for Trent Williams rather than later. And the 49ers can assess the risk and manage the risk of dead money and all that later on. There's obviously going to be more salary cap damage that the 49ers have to incur to make this deal work. Trent Williams is going to need more guaranteed money, and I think it sounds like he's going to need more money, period, based on Josina Anderson's tweet saying that he wants to get paid. And, you know, it's tough because the 49ers paid Nick Bosa last year on top of all the other A-listers they have under contract. Brock Purdy's coming next season in all likelihood, and you're negotiating with Brandon Aiyuk right now. You know, at some point, and I put this yesterday, good teams have less to spend than bad teams. And the 49ers are good and they're loaded with talent. So yes, they're in between a rock and a hard place, but you can theoretically find win-win situations or something that's at least palatable, like you did with Christian McCaffrey, when you find a way to guarantee the money and up the total amounts to pad the APY lead, as they did for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe they can do something similar with Trent Williams. You're operating on a bigger scale, though, when you're operating with these offensive tackles as opposed to running backs. I mean, McCaffrey's at what, $18 million per year? The top paid offensive tackles at $28 million per year. So since you're operating on a larger scale, it is harder to fit into the cap situation. But that is where we're standing right now. 49ers probably have to rebalance some of this money toward the front, incur some more salary cap damage, figure out what fits within their larger picture of financial Tetris, and obviously provide more guarantees from Trent Williams. I think that's at the very, very basis of all of this. All right, now we move, and this good teams have less to spend and bad teams message, that applies to all financial maneuverings for the 49ers. Why don't we look to see what CeeDee Lamb's deal means for Brandon Aiyuk. There's a reason I said we have to wait yesterday. People were getting, as usual, way too far ahead of themselves. But if you understand contracts, you know that you need to know the fully guaranteed money, not just the average per year, to see the power of a contract. And Justin Jefferson was at 35 million per year. The initial numbers of CeeDee Lamb's deal was 34 million per year. So people automatically assumed that this contract was just as big as Justin Jefferson's or close to it. And no, that didn't end up being the case. Fully guaranteed money is what gives us the true worth of a contract. And Justin Jefferson completely obliterated the market at $88.7 million in fully guaranteed money. Tyreek Hill, prior to his renegotiation, had been the high watermark at $52.5 million of fully guaranteed money. Based on the APY, a lot of people thought that CeeDee Lamb would just check in right behind Justin Jefferson, maybe at $85 million of fully guaranteed money. But that has not been the case. CeeDee Lamb is at $67 million in fully guaranteed money. So a much more incremental jump here, right? From 52.5, which is where Hill was prior to his renegotiation when Jefferson signed to 88.7. That was a 69% jump. Jefferson wasn't trying to beat the other receivers. He was trying to beat Nick Bosa, who was at $87 or $88 million fully guaranteed. So that completely shattered the market. And my prediction was that it would not set precedent. And my prediction was correct because CeeDee Lamb is not above 80 million and he's not even above 70 million fully guaranteed. He's at 67 million. It is a large increase, and maybe Jefferson's contract helped CeeDee Lamb with a bigger increase than it otherwise would have been. I think that's fair to say. But it's only, what, a 28% increase over the 52.5 million where Hill was versus a 69% increase. I think that everybody anticipated that both Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb would be above Brandon Aiyuk in terms of both APY and fully guaranteed money because they're higher volume receivers. Where, regardless of whether that's fair or not to Brandon Aiyuk, that's just the way that it works. The volume counts for something, right? And the offenses of both Minnesota and Dallas have run through Jefferson and Lamb respectively. So when I talked about fully guaranteed money and my contract proposal for Brandon Aiyuk, I'd always talked about something in the 40 million range, fully guaranteed money. And if the 49ers really had to sweeten the pot because you can amortize the signing bonus and the guaranteed option bonuses, you could stretch them out for cap purposes so you could find a win-win. Maybe they crack into the 50s. But I've always maintained that I thought Brandon Aiyuk wanted to be in the 40s. And I do think that, you know, now that you have both Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb comfortably above that $50 million range in fully guaranteed money, Tyreek Hill solidifying himself above 50 million fully guaranteed money, I think that if Brandon Ayuk's going to sign a deal, I think he's going to require it to be in the 40s, unless he just decides, okay, unless the 49ers say we're standing on business, we're not going to cave, we have an offer in the 30s, and, you know, this is as far as we'll go, and they just decide to lay down the law. They don't blink. They have the leverage, obviously. Unless that happens and this stays in the 30s, I think Brandon Ayuk's going to be part of this top 5 list right here once this deal's finally done. If they do finally hit that middle ground. Again, I've long thought 40s. Amon-Ra St. Brown was at 34 million. But that wasn't the Aiyuk deal. They were not able to execute that in late April and early May, right around the time that Amon-Ra St. Brown was signing. I think Aiyuk has always wanted more. I think he's found himself more durable. I think he thinks that he's a better receiver all around as far as being a blocker. And I think that he wants to be in the 40s, fully guaranteed. I think that's where Ryan Williams would want to be too. That's just me looking at the market. Right. I'm appraising where the market is at. I see that Jefferson and Lamb have stretched it up at the top, but I also have always seen Brandon Aiyuk slotting in behind those guys because he's not as high volume of a receiver. And you could probably slot him behind Tyreek Hill as well. So that means that he's in that Ridley, DJ Moore territory. It's funny because, you know, everybody's saying Amon-Ra St. Brown, 30 million per year in the APY. I think it's more important to look at fully guaranteed money, because Amon-Ra St. Brown is significantly lower in this list at 34 million per year. So I'm always going to judge stuff heavier on the fully guaranteed money just because it's not funny money. There's a little bit more substance behind it. All right, I'm going to check in with Mike, any news right now on these roster cut downs? Top of the show, 49ers did cut Tanner Mordecai. I guess I could go through some of the mechanics of what to expect over the course of the next couple hours. 1 p.m. Pacific time is the deadline for all teams to have their cuts in. The 49ers at that time should send out a press release of all the cuts officially. Again, we're probably going to find out a little bit earlier on some of these cuts, but I can walk you through some of the mechanisms. I actually got this sheet fully updated and ready for the big day today a little bit earlier. As you can see, I've added a practice squad projection that I've highlighted over here on the right. The 53-man projection, the guys that I'm projecting to make the roster, are highlighted right here on the left side of this dividing line. As guys do get cut, like Tanner Mordecai right now, I will move them down to the cut list, which is down here. As you can see, over the past 2 days, the 49ers have already cut 2 players. And we have more news here. Who's sourced on that, Mike? This is per Matt Barrows. Okay, here we go. From Matt Barrows, we've got a couple more cuts from the 49ers. The 49ers have made the following cuts: Robbie Chosen and Tanner Mordecai. So Barrows confirms what Eric Branch came out with on Tanner Mordecai. So Robbie Chosen is going to be a release and not a waive, where it can go right. I could give you another 49ers update right now. Wide receiver Robbie Chosen, formerly, I believe, Robbie Anderson, and then Chosen Anderson. The name has changed a couple times. Put that down at the bottom of the screen and show you how it all works here. So Robbie Chosen, he was highlighted in teal as a free agent edition. We did not expect him to make the 53-man roster. On one of my projections, I had him on the practice squad. On another one right here, I'm not sure about Chosen, but we'll say I don't expect him on the practice squad. I do think that he brought some interesting dynamic speed. He won on a couple go balls during practice at training camp that the 49ers might revisit if they need some bodies at the receiver room later this season. But they also have some really dynamic speed from their rookie, Jacob Cowing. So we're going to put Robbie Chosen down here onto the cut list, and we're going to say release. So the difference between now we're up to 7 players you can see on my counter here for the 49ers and releases. So the difference between a waive and a release is a player that has 4 or fewer accrued seasons of service in NFL. He's subject to waivers. A player who's a veteran, who's been around the league longer, like Robbie Chosen, who's just been cut, that's going to be a release. He's free to sign with another team at any time. So once the 49ers start building their practice squad tomorrow, I mean, they could even have an agreement in place right now with Robbie Chosen if they want him on the practice squad and they could formally, I think, ratify that tomorrow when they're building that practice squad. So, or maybe they could even start today, a little bit later on after the 53-man roster cut down is finalized. Either way, we'll see if he sticks around the building. Obviously, the 49ers brought him in coming off of a tryout just a couple weeks ago. Really, really slight of frame. I was shocked when I saw Robbie Chosen. Skinny man, right? But he is fast, really fast. And I think that you look at what the 49ers have to do blocking wise, it's just going to be physically, I think, harder for Robbie Chosen to be as physical as he needs to be blocking wise. So I saw him as more of a specialty weapon who could be there to stretch the defense because he really, really can fly. I mean, some of the go balls that we saw thrown his way at practice, he was beating first stringers on defense. And that's nice and all, but the 49ers need to make sure that they keep an adaptable offense, which is why I saw the ceiling, at least to begin the season, for Robbie Chosen as a practice squad receiver who the 49ers could call up at strategic instances when they needed a field stretching threat on offense. All right, so Mordecai and Chosen from Eric Branch and from Matt Barrows so far. We can go back to our little tutorial here of the 53-man roster. I prepared this all. I even included the injured reserve lists here at the bottom, you can expect a couple different types of maneuvers for IR. The 49ers have 3 players, as you can see here, who are projected to be out for extended periods of time, but not for all season. Yet the new rules say that they can only use a cut down exception for the 53-man roster to return to play on 2 players. So that gives them a little bit more flexibility without having to do a roster trick, but they're still probably going to have to use a roster trick to make sure that they keep all 3 of these guys on the team. So you've got John Feliciano, Ambry Thomas, and Clea Davis. I'm guessing the 49ers will use the IR designation to cut down on Feliciano and Davis. So I'll put them on this list if and when that happens. And then they'll probably have to release a veteran who's healthy to keep Ambry Thomas aboard for 1 day with the broken forearm. Then they can move Ambry Thomas to injured reserve and re-sign that veteran. That's the trick. And I'm assuming you're going to see both of those maneuvers from the 49ers today. We've got breaking news, not with the 49ers, but pertaining to the division. This is from Jordan Schultz. The Rams are trading linebacker Ernest Jones to the Tennessee Titans. Interesting. This had been rumored now for a couple days. The Rams, they just don't like investing in off-ball linebackers. And I think Kyle Shanahan has made Sean McVay's team pay for that over the course of the years. I mean, the 49ers and the Titans, they're run by Rand Carthon. So they're trying to copy the 49ers model. They brought in Azeez Al-Shire, remember, after the 49ers didn't have the room to extend him. So the Titans obviously value that linebacker play. Looks like they value it more than the Rams, as they're willing to make that trade with the Rams. And I think the 49ers are in good position to continue exposing Rams linebackers, especially in coverage and, even in the run game too. It's been a thing. They haven't lost many games against the Rams. Unfortunately, injuries caught up to the 49ers back in that NFC Championship game in 2021. They ran out of gas. But other than that, the sample is large, and the 49ers have had a lot of success against LA. And I think their ability to work against the Rams linebackers has been a big part of that. All right, so be ready for IR maneuvers. Be ready for PUP maneuvers. PUP, you don't have to do anything. I'm sure there's some procedural paperwork, but you don't add anybody to PUP. You can't unless they're already on it. There's a preseason PUP list, like a training camp preseason physically unable to perform list, and there is a regular season PUP list. The only way that you get onto the PUP in the regular season is if you were already there in the preseason. So Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, I would guess both will go onto the preseason PUP list. They will not be eligible to be activated to the 53-man roster until week 5 at the soonest. So they'd have to miss 4 weeks. 4 weeks is the minimum amount of missed time for guys on IR and for guys on that PUP list. There's also the reserve list. That's where Trent Williams currently is. He's not taking up a roster spot, and Trent Williams could remain on the reserve list moving forward if he does not report, and he's not going to be taking up a roster spot, yet he remains on the 49ers under contract for San Francisco. He remains in a situation where they have contractual control over what he can do. So that is a look at what I have set up. Obviously, keep your eye open for the practice squad projection at the right. And this, we'll see how correct I am in the case of this 53-man roster. We've got 83 players currently on the 90-man based on the reporting. I've erased Robbie Chosen, and I've erased Tanner Mordecai. That means that the 49ers still have, about 30 cuts to go. Yeah, 83 to 53. And we'll see how they're able to maneuver through all of those. The plan for today is that I'm going to go live with the 53-man cutdown show a little bit closer to the time when we expect the bulk of the news. I could sit here for an hour right now, and maybe we get a couple more cuts over the period of that time. But I care about you guys. I care about the replayability of this show, and I don't want you sitting here through 90 minutes of me just waiting for cuts to happen. So unless something revolutionary happens over the course of the next few seconds, we can start outlining our plans for the afternoon. 1 p.m. Pacific time is the deadline for these cuts to officially be in. I would expect the 49ers longer release of cuts to happen around that time, and then we could move forward based on that information. So anyway, Mordecai cut, Robbie Chosen cut. Trent Williams wants to be paid. What does that mean? Well, this is the existing contract for Trent Williams. It's 25.8 million per year over the next 3, but none of it's guaranteed. And he probably wants an APY bump here. I would say rebalancing the contract is what the 49ers will have to do with get more guaranteed money. And we also have CeeDee Lamb's deal. CeeDee Lamb's deal, yes, we were correct. It's nowhere near as big as Justin Jefferson's in terms of fully guaranteed money. It's over there at 67 million, which, might stretch Aiyuk a little bit, might give him a little bit more negotiating power into the 40s for fully guaranteed money. At the end of the day, though, Brandon Aiyuk needs to realize, and Steve Young said this yesterday, that good teams have less to spend than bad teams. 49ers have a price. They paid Bosa last year. They're paying Purdy next year. They're working on Trent Williams. They don't have that much wiggle room if they want to keep this roster together. And they do have the leverage in this situation. They've had it throughout. So at some point, the 49ers are going to be strained too thin with their offer that they can't go much further. And they're going to have to just sit back on their leverage. And I think that we've seen that. And Brandon Aiyuk, if he's going to want his money for this season, is going to have to come play ball. So we'll see if there are any other developments on that front. But that's all that I have to say about the 49ers and the money situations. Get ready for the 53-man cutdown. This has been your preview show. We'll talk to you all very soon. By the way, hit the notification bell right now. Hit sub, hit the notification bell. I'm coming on live much more frequently today than other days just because of how busy it's going to be. So I want you to make sure that you know when I will be live so that you're ready for all of this deep analysis as we continue to update the spreadsheet and the roster. All right, everybody have a good lunch. We'll talk to you very, very soon.